Yeah, thanks everyone for joining today's webinar, 1 hour webinar. We will be probably talking about 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll open to the floor for you to ask questions. Yeah. So thanks Smart Nation Office for inviting NUS to share about 5G as well. Okay. Today's topic is about 5G for everyone every day. So we will not be going down into a lot of detailed technical discussions, right? We can discuss it in some other occasions, but today we'll focus a lot on the application, right? As consumers, how can we use it? And of course, later on, we'll discuss as well as industry, how can we leverage on 5G for our business? Okay, very quickly. So I think you should have received this webinar synopsis, right? What we are trying to discuss today is we all know that Singapore is going 5G. In fact, many countries are going 5G, right? And things are being gradually rolled out. We will talk about the status later on. Where are we today, right? And I think just now there was also Q&A question about that, and we have answered it as well. So at any point of time, if you have any questions, just feel free to type into the Q&A, and we will either answer in the Q&A or we'll answer together for everybody's benefit. Okay, so in this seminar, as I mentioned, it's called Everyone for Every Day, right? So we will first explore how we can use 5G in our everyday's daily life, and then we'll look at how business is using 5G. And there's a key reasons why we look at 5G for business, because later on you'll see there's a lot of talk about 5G is a platform for industry transformation. So what does it really mean? We'll discover and discuss in the next few slides. So a very quick introduction about myself. I'm today an executive education fellow with NUS, right? And I actually teach 5G and some other courses as well, right? For NUS and some other IHL in Singapore. And there are also training academies like FinTech Academy, SIRS. So I teach different subjects in the digital space, right? Digital transformation space, AI, IoT, 5G, and so on and so forth. And my day job, actually, I'm a partner in a regional ICT conglomerate leading the healthcare sector, right? And I'm also the Vice President for Cloud Security Alliance Singapore chapter, yeah. And in the past, so what qualifies to some extent, qualifies me to talk about 5G, right? I'm more than 20 years in the telecommunication industry, right? In various companies and ecosystem, right? There is a software company, right? I was a customer business executive in I'll say NASDAQ listed Israeli company that is #1 in the telco business support system, that's BSS, and operation support system. Yeah, so that is my software and services experience in telco space. And of course, I'm with a Chinese telco giant, which I probably don't need to name who's that, right? They are launching 5G, or they are one of the forefront runner in 5G. So I was leading the digital transformation there. Yep. And then, of course, I was in different telco-related ecosystem service provider, right? In the Indian, British telco service provider, in American consulting leaders as well. Okay. And not forgetting, I started my career in the semiconductor industry in Singapore. So familiar with some of the chipset and other things as well. Okay. So that's about myself. So very quickly, before we start discussing what is 5G, maybe if everyone can take out your phone or your laptop, either click on this link, right? Go to menti.com, key in this code, or click on this link, which we can paste it in the chat box today, right? Then you can click on this link, or you can take out your phone and scan the QR code. Yeah. Then we just want to understand, what do you understand, or what do you think is 5G all about? So maybe we take 1 minute for everyone to start keying in your input. Let me paste the link also on the chat box so that you can actually click on it if you wish to. Okay. So you can click on the link. Okay, I cannot put into the Q&A. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the answer. Okay, so type in one word. That was the question on Menti that comes to your mind, which relate to 5G. Okay. So let's take a quick look at what other things that people put in. Well, there's so many answers. Okay, we can see in the word cloud, a lot about fast, a lot about speed. Of course, you have connectivity, you have communication, mobile phones. Oh, things are still changing. Okay, good. There are people putting AI, IoT, massive data. Okay, I think everybody has a different understanding of 5G, and I would say most of these keywords do represent 5G quite well. And we can see the biggest word that come out is really fast and speed, right? These are the two biggest ones, followed by maybe connectivity, right? So yeah, I think we're not wrong. You're not wrong, right? Most of the people, we know 5G as faster speed, right? Whether you can do better, faster downloading, uploading, or you can do better live streaming, right? So these are what our understanding of 5G is, which is not wrong, yeah? But actually 5G is more than that. Okay, let's take a quick look what 5G really means to us. Okay, so there are many definitions. I'm sure today's world, right? When I teach, students always like to say, hey, I can get all this from Google, so why am I listening to you, right? Plenty of information that you can Google or get from social media or from the internet. You're not right. You're not wrong, yeah? But what we're trying to do here is a lot of discussions and also knowledge sharing among everyone here that's on the seminar, right? Because not one person knows everything. But out of many definitions, right, including my previous employer on definition of 5G, I think this is something that can relate well to our topics today, and that I thought is easy enough for people to understand, right? So that's why I've taken this from Qualcomm, okay, among many others definition. So 5G is definitely the 5th generation mobile network. This is important because when I conduct 5G classes, I have students asking me to say that, hey, I have my broadband at home. So my broadband at home is a dual band broadband. I can choose 2.5G and 5G. So I already have 5G at home, right? So that is actually the 5 gigahertz and the 2.4 gigahertz for the broadband at the home, not really a 5G, which is a 5th generation mobile network that we're talking about today. Yeah. So 5G is actually definitely, I'm sure some of you may be familiar with 1G, 2G, but minimum you should know 4G because unless you don't use a mobile phone today, you should be using a 4G network most of the time. Yeah, sometimes you may fall into a 3G network, but in Singapore, that's quite rare, right? Europe may still be some places, some European countries are still on 3G network. Other than that, you should be experiencing and using 4G network already. So 5G is actually the 5th generation, right? We were at the 4th generation and today is 5th generation. And what does 5G offers, right? It enables a new kind of network, right? Why is it a new kind of network? Because in the 4G world, right, and before, we are looking at more one-to-one communication in the sense that it's a human and a network communication. But in the 5G network, we are looking at connecting everyone and everything. And that's why today's topic is also 5G for everyone in everyday's life, right? Because in 5G, we're expecting not just about human and mobile network communication, but also more machine-to-machine communication. Today, of course, there's already machine-to-machine communication, right? But 5G will enable more, and we'll see why. And the other part is I will not discuss in detail because there will be a slide just to explain what it means. But this is, again, another good definition if you ask me, right? 5G wireless technology, right? If you're interested, in our course, we'll discuss between what is the difference between wireless and wireline technology, right? So 5G wireless technology is meant to deliver higher gigabit per second peak data speed. This is why everybody say 5G is fast. 5G has a good speed, yeah? So that's what we all know. Some people may know 5G offers ultra low latency. What does it mean, right? What's the meaning of low latency? What is the meaning of ultra low, right? We'll discuss it in later. More reliability, massive network capacity, and so on and so forth. But all this, many of us will still point to higher speed, better experience, okay? So this is a good definition of 5G that I thought I would want to share with everyone. So let's take a quick look at mobile technology. Just now we talked about 5G is 5th generation. So you can look from this slide, almost every 10 years, right, roughly, plus minus, we experience a new generation of mobile network, starting from 1980s for 1G, all the way to now for 5G. And in every of this mobile network evolution, there are different, maybe we call it killer application, right? For those of you who are in ICT industry, for, I think, more than 10 years, you probably know that mobile technology, we always talk about what is the killer application. So 1G was simple, right? Instead of, for those of you old enough like myself, you are using a fixed line at home in the past, right? 1G or 2G really brings and populate the use of mobile technology, a mobile phone, right? My time was started with a pager, actually. Okay, so 1G enabled us to use a voice call, and some of you may remember this big thermoflash light or darker dark light kind of mobile phone. Moving to 2G, I think many of us may have used this Nokia phone that we may still keep a copy of it, right? It was so popular that we can text, right? SMS become so popular. During my time when I first started work, I used pager, and people have to first leave a message with a call center, then I have to call back and retrieve. And later on, pager improved to be able to type messages using a Motorola pager. And then, of course, 2G with a Nokia phone, it becomes so popular that we can do text, apart from talking, yeah? Then 3G, I was involved in launching systems, moving from 2G to 3G back in the late 1990s, right? So that's where 3G, we start talking about it and wanted to launch, I think in Singapore was 2003, if I'm not wrong, or 2002, around there, right? And what people can use 3G for, right? That time when it first launched, people were still questioning because we're so used to text and we are so happy that we can do that, right? But 3G, after 1 or 2 years, really get very popular because we can do mobile internet. There's this thing called data, okay? So I'm sure today everybody know what's data, right? But you imagine 20 years ago when we first launched 3G, we don't know what's data, and we're so happy that we can text already, right? And then 4G, 10 years later, I started launching 4G when I was in Taiwan, right? Helping one of telco there. And then at that time, again, same thing. We don't know why we need 4G, right? People say, hey, I'm happy that I can do data, I can surf net using my 3G already, right? Why do I need 4G? Is it just faster speed? If it is, do I really need to pay for it? So there wasn't a very clear use case or killer application in 4G when we first started. But again, after 1 or 2 years, right, new companies emerge. We have YouTube even during the 3G days. But we are happy that we can download, okay, streaming may not be so smooth, but okay, it's free, so we don't really care, right? But video and social media really popularized the use of 4G technology because now, you know, YouTube, okay, you can still stream for free, but you want better experience, you want exclusive content, you will need to pay for it, right? So that's why video like YouTube and TikTok, right, actually popularized the use of 4G. And of course, social media like Facebook, the always on lifestyle that we're in today is really helping 4G to flourish, right? So mobile internet, video, all these things are the killer application that when we launched 3G, 4G, nobody really thought about that, right? But it helps to drive the growth of 3G and 4G. So now coming to 5G, again, same question. What is the killer application of 5G, right? This question is commonly asked because we all think like what you type in the word cloud just now. 5G is another technology that gives you faster speed, better experience. But will you pay a premium for that, right? Because CapEx investment in 5G is not that cheap as well, right? So if you are not going to pay a premium of it, then you need a reason to really want to use it. So what's the killer application, right? Question mark, to be honest with you. There are many different ecosystem players in the telco ecosystem, from the Ericsson to the Huawei to the Nokia, or to the telco operators. Singapore will be Singtel, M1, StarHub, or the big ones like Verizon, Sprint in US, or the China Telecom, China Mobile in China. Everyone say that, okay, you can do a lot of things with 5G, but really what is the killer application that will be like a data? There will be like SMS, there will be like a social media and video that becomes the killer application of 4G, 3G, and 2G. Nobody really can say or put down their foot to say this is the killer application of 5G. It may not be there yet, right? Or it may be a combination of many that make out the killer application of 5G. So while thinking, right, when 5G was first launched, you probably remember the Samsung, the Huawei all tried to do a foldable phone because I think that, okay, 5G, faster speed, better thing. I give you a foldable phone. You don't need to carry a laptop or tablet later. Just use the phone. Big enough, small enough to be better than your laptop and tablet. Big enough that you can do work on the mobile phone. So foldable phone was supposed, or someone positioned it as a killer thing for 5G. But it didn't really work out very well, at least not as of now, right? It's still there, but nobody really kind of believed that foldable phone will be a 5G killer application. So another one is it something that is implanted or embedded to, I mean, either your body or some kind of day-to-day thing that you carry, like a watch, like a pin or something like that, right? So there are even companies, like I was familiar with a company in China called Royal. They built a lot of this thin panel of things on your t-shirt even, right? Is this thin layer of embedded screen, right? Part of a 5G application, killer application, again, is a question mark, right? People think that it may be because going with your always on everyday lifestyle, it may be, but again, it has not been proven yet, right? So to be honest with you, as we can see from the next few slides, there are many industry use cases or consumer use cases for 5G, but none of it is really the killer application yet. Maybe one of it will emerge to be the one, or maybe you, after today's session or after taking the course with NUS, may come out with a killer application. So very quickly, in everyday's life, what do we think 5G will be, right? How can we leverage 5G for? So again, if we look at it, everyone say 5G is about connectivity, about speed, about fast, right? In the word cloud, most of the people think of that way. And you are not wrong as well, because when 5G was first launched, right, these are some of the industry use cases that is leveraging on the capability of 5G that enable better speed, right? Things like AR, VR, virtual reality, or augmented reality. Of course, that is used a lot in the gaming industry, right? And then some of you may know about this word called digital twins. So I built something like a 3D model on my application, right, that mimic a real physical device, and I can do the monitoring of that. So these are some of the applications that we are familiar with, right? And even things like what we call smart tourism. There are a lot of people trying to say, okay, you wear this, whether is it a Google Glass or is it a Huawei Glass, you can experience yourself like in the safari running alongside with the lion. So these are some of the AR, VR, or even MR, mixed reality kind of use cases that we think we will use 5G for in our everyday life, right? And of course, there are drones. Today, without 5G, you can already fly drones, right? But that's probably one drone, two drones. If you have multiple connected drones, you probably need to leverage 5G due to certain capability that 5G can offer, which we will see later. And of course, live streaming, right? Is it video live streaming or application live streaming? These are the high bandwidth applications that, yes, 5G, just like 4G, better than 3G, can offer when we launch 5G. So this is one group of applications or use cases that leverage on one capability of 5G that we'll see later. Other 5G daily use cases that is possible, right? Today, we have many robots running around, right? You probably see some patrol robots when you go to some of the shopping mall. You'll probably see some of them in the park. So again, without 5G, these robots are already emerging, right? But again, as I mentioned, there is certain capability in 5G that enables what we call a connected robots. When you have more and more robots that need to talk to each other, right? And you want to have a centralized control, you need to leverage some capability of 5G. Another cases will be things like smart metering. So we know some of our HDB estate is already equipped with 3 meters. We call it the water meter, gas meter, and the electricity meter. So smart metering is already happening. But again, to make smart metering smarter, some basic capability of 5G helps to enable that as well, right? Same thing for smart sensors and traffic management. So there were a lot of talk that as part of our Smart Nation perspective, we want to have smart lampposts that can have video analytics, monitoring, and traffic control as well, right? So again, without 5G, you can do some part of it already. But when you have more and more smart sensors, more and more smart lampposts, more and more smart videos for various reasons, then the 5G capability can help to make it better. Okay, so these are some of the use cases that we already see that we have it in our daily life, and you will get better with 5G and get more popular and expanded and scalable with 5G. And at the same time, there are also a lot of use cases we know using the speed and the bandwidth capability of 5G that helps to enable that, like the AR and VR. Okay, very quickly. So actually the world is chasing after 5G. So some of you may think that 5G, we have been talking for about 2 years. Is it a hype or is it real or not, right? So the video that is keep on moving here, you can see different countries are already using 5G for different use cases, yeah? And if we look at the numbers perspective, right, since we first talked about 5G in 2020 in Singapore, right? Today, there are already more than 174 operators, the telco operators in 71 countries have launched 5G. So you have 150 or 160 countries in the world, and probably half of them already have 5G, okay? And then, of course, about 70 plus countries have 5G spectrum ready. So some of them may have a spectrum ready, but may not have launched 5G yet, okay? Again, we will not go into detail of what spectrum means here, but we will be teaching such a course in NUS as well, okay? Then if we look at it, close to 300 million subscribers today globally in 5G. I remember when I first talked about 5G 2 years ago in 2020, we are looking at less than 100 million, right? So the year-on-year growth rate is really very high at 36%. Okay, and of course, before we know and experience 5G, there are so many phone equipment makers already say that my phone is 5G enabled, right? And this is important because when I was doing 3G, 4G, one of the reasons why it didn't take off as fast as we all expecting it to be, beside that there is a lack of killer application, the other one is that the lack of some of the phones that is 3G or 4G enabled. Right? So this time around, before 5G networks are all rolled out, right? Many equipment manufacturer already launched 5G enabled phone, right? This is something very important because the entire 5G or 3G or 4G is an ecosystem play. It's not just about telco launching a price plan. It's not just about someone launching a mobile phone. It's not just about the government getting the spectrum ready. It's a combination of all these things to work hand in hand so that you can actually really use and experience 5G. Okay, so again, there are many hype or many things happening in the 5G world, right? But what is lacking to some extent is the business model for 5G ready, right? Yes, to some extent, right? But again, no, if we are talking about killer application, if there is going to be any killer application, right? And up to today, when we talk to many people, people still think 5G is all about faster speed. But is it just really about faster speed? So if you look at it, yes, speed is one of that, and that covers under what we call the throughput side of things, right? So the gigabit per second in terms of uplink and downlink is better in 5G as compared to 4G. So let's compare to 4G, right? It's probably 10 times better, right? But again, other than speed, other than throughput, other than bandwidth, there are more things that 5G can offer that 4G couldn't, right? And these are what we are thinking in the industry, that you need to leverage on these additional capabilities of 5G to enable the industry, whether it's the consumer industry or the enterprise industry, right? If not, then people will just think, why do I want to pay more for better speed, right? I may be happy enough. Yeah, always good to have better, but it's a need versus a want. Yeah. So one of the key capabilities is called latency. Without going into all the technical definition of what all this means, right? Latency basically means, to some extent, in the layman term, less delay, right? So imagine when you do a consumer use case like a video streaming, right? Watching your YouTube or watching any videos online, right? With lower latency, you probably can have a more smoother experience with less delay, okay? But you wouldn't really pay too much of that. I mean, watching a video, if you ask me, watch a free video and there's delay versus paying $10 smooth video, I may or may not pay for it, right? Depending on your spending lifestyle. But latency become important when it comes to mission critical application. And what are mission critical application? We can take a look later, but these are the ones that you want very short response time. So the communication between the network and the devices, right, has to be very fast, like even down to 1 millisecond, or we call it sub-millisecond, right? Because these are mission critical. Example, right, autonomous driving, right? Communication with the autonomous car without anybody inside. You cannot have a slow response or any delay because that can create an accident. Same thing for remote surgery, right? Today, there are already successful cases of remote surgery in the healthcare industry. Any sub-millisecond delay can cost a life. Yeah, so that's why latency is important in those what we call mission critical systems and mission critical applications. Okay, so we talked about throughput just now. The other one is connection. That's again another thing that we talk about 5G just now. So today without 5G, I already have robots running. I already have drones flying, right? But these are one-to-one or maybe not more than 10 or 20 kind of connections. But 5G enabled 1 million connections per kilometer square. So it becomes very important in places where you want to have many machine-to-machine communication. Example, a smart factory that's already happening in China. You want the different robots and devices and monitoring devices to be able to communicate with each other and try to do more automation. That is where you have a lot of machine-to-machine type communication, and the multiple big enough pipe that can connect them together is important. Okay. The other two is a bit more technical that you may not be able to feel it, right? But mobility is important. Again, this is 5G offers like a high-speed railway speed, 500 kilometer per hour. So the data transfer is fast, right? And you can process the logic much faster as compared to 4G. The other key capability which started from the 4G days is your network will be what we call software defined, right? So that in a layman term, you don't need to go to the actual physical network to do a lot of changes. Some of the configuration, all the changes can be done in a software controlled manner, right? And because of that, there's a new concept called network slicing that's introduced as a capability of 5G that you can give dedicated, like a cake slice, a slice of cake, different slices to different industry use cases. So these are a summary of what 5G can offer as compared to 4G. And if we look at it, as I mentioned, apart from you're familiar with some of the consumer, right, like you and I experience it in a day-to-day life, 5G has often been positioned as industry transformation technology, right? What is the meaning of industry transformation? For those of you in Singapore, you probably know that Singapore has I think it's 23, right, if I'm not wrong, industry transformation map called ITM that you can download from MTI, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, right? In that, actually, we define that how a healthcare industry, how a transportation industry, how our energy industry is going to transform in a digital way, right? And again, 5G will be key enabler to some of this transformation, right? And this report from Deloitte, I think, or PwC, is really talking about many B2B, business to business opportunity that's possible in the different vertical industry, right? 21% in the healthcare, followed by government, right? Transportation, you already saw just now, smart traffic management, smart sensors, right? Healthcare, we'll talk about it later in the next couple of slides. Energy and utility, that's the smart metering, right? As a start that you're familiar with. Manufacturing, there's a lot of talk. You can Google smart factory. Everybody is trying to move towards a smart factory vision, right? So these are the pie, the percentage that there are enough opportunity to leverage and use 5G for in the different vertical industry. And that's why often people position 5G as a industry or enterprise transformation. Okay. So very quickly, okay, I think this is important slide. And I always tell my students, if you say that you have taken a 5G course or you have attended a 5G webinar, you can probably forget about everything. But this thing that I term it as a 5G capability triangle, you need to remember, right? And there are three key capability of 5G, right? That is being introduced when we launch 5G technology. One is what we call EMBB. EMBB stands for Enhanced Mobile Broadband, okay? So what is enhanced mobile broadband? So again, from a layman perspective, this is what we have seen just now, the AR, VR, the cloud gaming, the faster speed, better throughput. These are the things that we are familiar because we have experienced it from 2G to 3G to 4G, right? Better speed, better live streaming. So these are all leveraging on what we call the EMBB capabilities of 5G. Okay, what is not in the 4G that we discussed, right? Or not so good in 4G is the other two key capabilities, which is needed, right? And we need to leverage more of these two when it comes to using and commercializing 5G. One is MMTC. MMTC stands for Massive Machine Type Communication. So this is again in layman term, your connected devices, connected world. Some people call it connected home, right? Smart home that you can use, build a smart home by yourself, control your curtain, aircon, and some other things. Those are machine type communication because in smart home, it's simple, right? But imagine from a smart home to a smart condo, to a smart factory, to a smart city, then a smart nation. So in a small smart home, okay, we can still control using 4G, Wi-Fi, or whatever. right? And there are many proprietary network in the IoT devices and space as well. But when it comes to bigger one, right, bigger and bigger until a smart city, you need to have some kind of standardized protocols to communicate. The other thing is that whatever we have in 4G and Wi-Fi is not good enough, right, to already control without any delays and good throughput, good speed, and then good security to control different devices in a smart city perspective already. Okay, so of course this will extend into some other thing like smart agriculture in some of the countries outside Singapore. Of course, they use drones for irrigation, right? Multiple drones. Yeah, you can use 4G Wi-Fi, but they are not good enough to control many drones in a large plantation. Okay, so that is the MMTC capability. URLLC capability, it stands for ultra reliable low latency communication. So this is again important, as I mentioned just now. It's about mission critical application. I am happy that I cannot watch a very smooth video, but it will be a life and death issue when it comes to self-driving vehicles. It comes to remote surgery, because every sub-millisecond response delay is going to cost a life. Yeah, so that becomes very important, right? And 5G provide that capability as compared to 4G and other wireless or wireline technology. Okay, I hope it's not getting too technical, right? Because we leave the technical aside and we can discuss when you have the course itself. Okay, so in summary, 5G will change life and transform industry, because we already say the 3 capability and additional capability like a network slicing of 5G is going to enable things like robotic or remote surgery. It's going to enable things like AR, VR education, right? Imagine if you have lots of delay, yeah, you probably will be happy when it comes to playing games, unless you are such a avid gamers that you cannot stand because you play, okay, my time was Counter-Strike, I don't know what's the game today, right? You get killed, right, in the game, right? And when we talk about metaverse, there's another upcoming buzzword, right? You need this kind of capability to enable that. Okay. Other things, smart fishing, smart agriculture, lots of IoT devices. I was working with a big plantation conglomerate 3 years ago in Malaysia, right? They actually put IoT devices to their rubber trees so that they can actually measure the yield, and they know when to send their workers down to tap the rubber in a more accurate way. So indirectly, it's saving labor costs from that and have a better yield management, right? So again, smart agriculture, smart plantation, smart fishing will be leveraging a lot of connected devices and leveraging on the 5G capability. Okay, this one probably not familiar with Singapore, robotic mining, right? Dangerous places. You may not want to always send your people there to do a lot of all these monitoring and actions. So if we extend it to Singapore, there is a smart port using 5G in PSA. There is also a smart road sweeper that we'll see later in Sentosa. Not so dangerous, but it's of the same concept that you can do a lot of autonomous kind of work and replace it using robots or machineries like these kind of things to avoid sending people to dangerous workplace. Okay, smart tourism, I already talked about it just now. I have myself experience wearing a glass, right, a VR glass, and try to run alongside with a lion in the Africa safari. So these are some of the smart tourism capabilities using the AR, VR capability, leveraging on 5G, right? So this is another thing. Live action sport. If you happen to go to, before COVID, there's a yearly, what we call Mobile World Congress event in Barcelona. So everyone who is trying to sell 5G will always have like a sport stadium kind of setting. And then you go in, you can see, of course, live, I mean, you can see the live sport, of course. Then you can do social media, social rating of the players, right? You can do social activities in that live stadium concept. You can do a replay if you somehow miss something because you went to the toilet or something, right? So whether it's a sports stadium or a concert hall, the ability to stream, to do social rating and activities of the live event is also leveraging some capabilities of 5G as well. Okay. Smart manufacturing, I already talked about it. Smart factory is all over the place. Everyone is talking about that as part of Industry 4.0 and also 5G use cases. More and more automation, more and more robots and robotic arms trying to control in a cloud manner. You need 5G capability to enable that as well. Okay. Smart agriculture, similar to a smart fishing concept that we talked about just now. So in a nutshell, 5G will actually transform some of the industry in the industry transformation roadmap. And it will also change some of the life of our people because you have different experience already. When you go to a live sports stadium watching a live concert, when you start using AR, VR for remote education, when you may even experience or see how a remote or robotic surgery or robotic assisted surgery is going to be carried out. So very quickly, give two use cases because I myself quite involved in education and healthcare sector, right, apart from teaching. So there is already, even in NUS, right, a lot of AR, VR environment created to do immersive learning in a remote education perspective, right? COVID actually brings about remote education because we do a lot of training or classes over Zoom, but that's really, you don't really need 5G unless you have really a big crowd, right? Some of you may know JJ Lin concert that was supposed to happen a few months ago or last year. It got cancelled because the entire live streaming was so bad that you cannot accommodate the crowd that signs in. With 5G, that probably will solve the problem. Yeah. Same thing when you have a large cloud education. Another reason for that is really about smart classroom because they will have a lot of devices connected in a smart classroom. They can do like telepresence. You can do remote education, really experience it like a remote education in healthcare. You want to have people training you to do surgery, then you need a VR, AR remote education capability leveraging on 5G. Another case, I personally experienced it in UK 3 years ago. So I thought was a good use case to share. So they are trying to train firemen, right? Firemen needs to be trained, but you cannot train firemen to a real fire situation, right? Unless you send them to the physical real fire. But whether are they equipped enough to really know how to react, it may be not the case, and it may cause a life and death issue as well, right? So in UK, there's a company that built content on VR training, or they call it the MR training of firemen. So the firemen can actually wear the glasses, right, and experience a real fire situation. So of course, it's like playing game. They go in, if they do something wrong, then they will die in the metaverse, right? They will die during the VR education. But this is a good training for them to really experience it. Another one that I've seen is a Korea company that create the AR, VR content on CPR, right? So you can actually press a physical, not a real model, a model body. Then you press the right position, then they'll tell you whether you did it correctly in a CPR process or not. So these are some of the remote education that is already happening today. And there is a need for a lot of the content creators of such AR, VR content. Another key use cases, I think I'm running out of time. So very quickly, from a healthcare perspective, there are three capabilities of 5G that can be used. One is, of course, the EMBB, similar to the remote education I talked about, right? In the CPR world, you can do the pressing the right places, then you score points, you press wrongly, you don't, then you can pass or fail the training, right? MMTC, 5G actually enable what we call IoMT, Internet of Medical Things as well. So imagine you have consumer health wearables that will measure your long-term health management, and then that will need to transmit into the doctor who is monitoring you, example. Then you also have hospital devices, right? They are more of a medical grade as compared to a consumer health. So all these devices need to talk to each other, pass data around, and 5G will enable that, not just because that it can take more connected devices, but also the security as compared to just other technologies such as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, right? So this is another possible use case in the healthcare industry, linking from consumer health to medical grade for long-term health management. Another thing that we talked about just now also, very popular, right? Remote surgery. China mentioned, I think about 6 months ago, that they have done a remote surgery successfully from Fujian, right? Using 5G network, right? So this is another case that more and more we will see, because Singapore, we may not experience it. I mean, every doorstep, we can find a clinic, some even 24 hours. Not too difficult to find a hospital in Singapore as well, but it comes very popular when it comes to big rural areas or big countries that are crowded by traffic jam. This kind of remote surgery or robotic assisted remote surgery becomes very important in saving lives. So that's the smart healthcare. And of course, there are more healthcare industry use cases, right? One of them is autonomous vehicle, which we'll talk about it later, right? Then robotics and AR/VR education that we talk about. Okay. Okay, looking back in Singapore, what do we have in 5G, right? So this is from IMDA website. It will be updated along the way, right? I think people are asking what is the thing that Singapore government is promoting for 5G, right? So we started 5G launching it, trying it since 2019, right? Getting the different ecosystem ready, from spectrum to equipments to use cases to building the infrastructure. So there are many things that's happening, right? And then there were 40 million used to kickstart the trials, and there are different trials that's ongoing, right? Whether is it some trials with Capital Land on smart estate, autonomous driving, or is it with Razer on AR/VR gaming streaming capabilities, right? Or with PSA to do smart port maritime operations using drones and AGV. So these are the different things that probably you see it more from an industry perspective. So you will be asking yourself as a consumer, why do you really care about it to some extent, right? Apart from maybe if you're working in these industries, right? So if you look at it, these are a snapshot of what was extended from just now, right? So there are also PSA maritime trial that's ongoing, as I mentioned, right? With Capital Land on smart estate, right? And then smart factory with IBM, Samsung, and M1, right? So at different places, they are trying 5G currently, right? And I will show you what is the latest one in the next slide, right? But basically, there is I would say IMDA mandate that by end of 2025, 95% of the island of Singapore needs to be covered with 5G. But I think currently, if I'm not wrong, by end of this year, we should be at least 75%, beating our 50% target already, right? So there will be more and more 5G network around the island that we can use 5G for. But again, it goes back to my first question just now. We have the infrastructure ready. We have the ecosystem like the spectrum, like the equipment ready. Do we have the business use cases ready? Why will people want to pay more going to 5G, right? If it's just faster speed, I may or may not want to pay more, okay? And this is where, to be honest with you, there are many trials ongoing, and they can be new trials from you if you are taking a 5G course, because we will be teaching you things like business model canvas framework, things like design thinking to come up with additional use cases for 5G that you can take to the company, or if you're an individual not working in the tech industry or company, you can actually propose to IMDA and get it evaluated, and you may get funding running that. And who knows, you may be the one who come out with a 5G killer application. Okay, so one of the latest one that you probably read from the news is the Sentosa Island is covered with 5G, right? Not the entire island yet, but slowly it will be, right? So it is mainly driven by Singtel, right? So there's a 5G now at Sentosa that you can also Google or read Straits Times that talks about autonomous road sweeper that collaborate with NTU, right? To do this using 5G to do autonomous road sweeper. Then you also have most recently that you can get food delivery and also Liho. Liho is the drink store, right? The Liho delivery using an autonomous vehicle that is by NCS and Grab in the Sentosa Island, right? And just now leveraging and expanding what I mentioned in the healthcare industry. If you can do food delivery and all those things, what is it stopping you from making this autonomous vehicle into like a mobile clinic or mobile first aid concept? I remember when I used to go to Sentosa, when someone got injured on the beach, right? You need all the first aid kits, bandage, plasters, ointment, and all those things. So you have to look for that. And many of time, you will call a hotline in Sentosa, right? That was many years ago. Then a ranger will cycle and bring this thing to you, right? So instead of just relying on that, why don't you use an autonomous vehicle to do the mobile first aid capability, right? And add on that, because of COVID, some of us are so familiar with telemedicine, right? We talk over the phone with Doctor Anywhere or White Coat kind of application. What is it stopping us from putting such a thing into this autonomous vehicle? You send your bandages, your plasters as a first aid. At the same time, they can talk to a doctor or first aider over that teleconsult platform. It can be a laptop or phone that's embedded in there. And plus, you can put thermometer, you can put blood pressure monitor into this autonomous vehicle and start some basic form of telediagnostic. right? So it's really up to our imagination how to use 5G in a proper way, okay? So summary, right? Use cases of using 5G. So there are many of it. And this one we try to map again, similar diagram as you see from the 5G capability triangle, right? The three key capabilities of 5G enable different use cases, whether it's in the enterprise industry or in the consumer industry that we can leverage 5G for. Okay, very quickly, that's why I keep on saying that 5G is not just a telco play, because in the older world of 2G, 3G, 4G, we always think that I'm just a consumer. I wait for the telco to launch because I have no choice, because ultimately 4G replace 3G, 5G will replace 4G. I'll be forced to move to 5G anyway. So I don't really need to care, right? Just that I don't need to pay too much, then I'm happy. Okay, but actually 5G world is different. As the telco position it as an industry transformation technology, there are many places that the non-telco based ecosystem player can add value to that, right? Outside the circle are the traditional telco ecosystem player that benefited or launched or really drive the 3G, 4G, the technology, right? But in the 5G, apart from them providing the ecosystem like the chipset, the network, the infrastructure, and all those things, this group of the inner circle is actually driving change and driving adoption of 5G as well. Example, in the EMBB world, we already said, right? 4K video or even 8K video, content provider who provide 8K video or content that you really want it so much, you may be driving the adoption of 5G, right? Then things like MMTC, right? MMTC is about robotics, drones, automation, and so on and so forth. Again, your smart fridge, your smart home, and things bigger than that in a smart factory concept may be another one that drive the industry adoption of 5G. Same thing for URLC. More and more robotic education or surgery or activities can also drive the adoption of 5G. So there will be more and more new companies coming out in this ecosystem that can drive the adoption of 5G and maybe one day becoming one of the application or one of the killer application that drive 5G adoption. Okay. Last but not least, 5G is an ecosystem of skills. So knowing 5G is good, but not enough, because 5G at the end of the day is still a connectivity, right? You want to see the result of a smart factory because of U management, because of automation, you need other technology to work hand in hand with 5G. Example, robotics. Example, cybersecurity. Example, artificial intelligence. You want to do remote education, remote surgery, you need other technologies such as AR, VR glasses, right? Content for AR, VR. So all these things need to work hand in hand with 5G to really increase the adoption of 5G and drive industry transformation as well. There are many questions. Okay, I try to go from choose a few, especially those with name, to respect the people who are willing to put their name. So normally we start with those people who put their name. So Gilbert has got two questions. My phone is 5G capable, but mobile connection still LTE. This one, I think there are a few things. As I mentioned, 5G is an ecosystem. So first, you need to have a 5G phone. Then you need to have a 5G SIM card, okay? Then you need to have a 5G plan. Then you can really use 5G. But of course, not the entire island is covered by 5G. So if you happen to be in a part that's not covered by 5G infrastructure and network yet, then you will not be using a 5G signal, but a 4G. Okay, so that hopefully answer your question. Okay. Another question also from Gilbert, 5G isn't greener, right? It uses more power. To some extent, yes. But again, that's why there are also small cell technology that's coming out under 5G, right? Trying to be, again, all the companies today, all the industry is trying to live up to the ESG expectation. So same thing, there will be more and more innovation to be more energy saving using 5G infrastructure as well, right? So yes, it isn't to some extent greener if you compare with 4G, but there are more, I would say, peripheral technologies that's helping it to be more efficient and effective. And again, right, a little bit of technical term, right, 5G in terms of transmission and receiving is better than 4G. So yeah, it may consume more power just like your phone, but you may be able to do more with less using a 5G technology. Okay. Okay, who else put a name there? Deva Lucia. Okay, today wireless communication is greatly hampered by wall thickness, including home needing mesh connections. Does 5G rise above this? Yeah, so there are two parts of 5G. What we have been talking so far is the I would say the normal 5G using the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum, right? So that one has a better penetration in terms of all these things and not really limited by wall thickness to some extent, right? There is another part of 5G that not many of us talk about, right? It's called the millimeter wave technology. That one will have problem that it will get blocked by wall thickness, by trees and other things. That's why for that hasn't really heavily adopted yet, but that will also work well in things like a big stadium that I talked about just now, right? A big concert hall, that everything is like a proprietary 5G network that you can enable a lot of inside the stadium kind of communication, right? It to some extent, well, that probably is the use case for the millimeter wave 5G technology. Okay. Hope they answer your question. Okay. I don't know why there's a Jim Lim. Is that me? Does attending the course open up any job opportunity for us? I don't know who asked that question using my name. Well, okay, answering the other Jim Lim, maybe just same name. Yes and no. So you can do a search of a website in IMDA, Singtel, M1, StarHub. And also there is a 5G Telecom Academy website that NUS and Singapore Poly actually has won the 5G training program for the entire Singapore, right? Working with different IHL and external provider. So in the 5G Telecom Academy website, there will also be job opportunity being posted apart from the courses that's available across the different academies in Singapore and overseas. So yes, it should have new opportunity if you are equipped with 5G knowledge, not necessarily in the telco industry or telco companies only, because the telcos are also hiring people from different industries such as manufacturing, such as banks and others, come in and join them to lead the enterprise segment of the telco business, because you need to speak the same language as your customer in the manufacturing plant to tell them, hey, why you need to do a 5G when today in manufacturing plant, a lot of them are using wireline, right? Technology. So you will be able to explain to them, hey, is it from a cost, commercial perspective? Is it from a security? Is it from a technical or what perspective, or a combination of both, that is better that you move to 5G than relying on your existing technology, right? Okay, so that's what we teach actually, yeah. So I answered Jim Lim's question. How much time I have? May I have 5 minutes? Okay, Irene, thanks Jim, thank you for the 5. Okay, I think you did. Irene Tan didn't finish your question, so I can't answer. Thanks for that. Hope that you learned something. There are people contact them at their mobile phone, so this one I leave it to Smart Nation Office and NUS. TF Wong, most of the business has their wireless network installed. Okay, any change or help for the business you need to transform using 5G technology? So it really depends on what you use the 5G technology for, right? So again, they are what we call smart office and smart campus use cases when we talk about 5G, right? But those are depending on the applications they want to connect together, right? Probably you may or may not need 5G, right? And of course, if you talk to any of the telco in Singapore today, there is a smooth transition from your existing technology, can be Wi-Fi, can be 4G, to move to 5G, if there is a strong business case for you to move to 5G. So this one, not to worry. Go to any of your telecom providers. I'm sure they're happy to sell you 5G. It's whether it justify depending on your business case to use 5G or not. Yeah. If you ask me personally, if you have a lot of connected devices, and today some of us know that IoT technology has too many proprietary technology protocol, like you have Wi-Fi, you have Zigbee, Z-Wave, LoRa, NB-LT, so many different technology protocols. Some of them cannot integrate well with each other. Maybe 5G is the solution for you. Yeah, need to understand your business case more. Okay, do I continue or do I stop? Will there be 6G? Yes, they are already, as I mentioned, every 10 years is one generation to some extent. right? So 2030, hopefully, or maybe we'll see 6G or even earlier. If 2030, we need to see 6G, the research would have started by now, 2022, okay? But of course, as I say, you can have the 6G technology ready, but the ecosystem needs to be ready as well. The hardware manufacturer, the chipset maker, the handset maker, the spectrum readiness, which we didn't talk about spectrum today, but you take the course, we'll tell you why we also need to wait a bit for 5G, because the spectrum today that we want to use for 5G, some of the spectrum is already used for satellite and others. In Taiwan, you probably heard that there's no more 3G in Taiwan because there's a technical term called refarming, right? You refarm or reuse the spectrum that was, you clear off first, then you use the same spectrum for 3G to cater for 5G, okay?